Hey, what's up everybody? Welcome back to our channel. Hey, if you're new here, please click that like, that subscribe, and don't forget to bang that bell notification. This way, you'll get notified every time I upload a video. Well, today we are going to talk about how to remove a fuel tank. And from the Rushmore models, which are from 2014 to 2023, are all the same on your touring bikes. And on your touring bikes from 24 or 23 and a half CVOs to current, which now is 2025, they're very similar but have very few differences. And I'll explain those differences to you. Now what we have here is this beautiful black, very rare, one of 1 million black road glides. And to get the tank off, the first thing we need to do is open up a saddlebag and remove the screw, and then remove the seat. Then on the front of the tank, I'm going to bring it on this side, it's easier to see. Right now in here, where my hand is, there's these little rubber covers that go over your bolt. And that's what they look like. So you want to remove both of these as well, because we will be removing the bolts behind it. There's 4 of them. You could use a T40 or you could use a 1/2-inch socket. Everybody's been saying use a T40, it's a T40. It's a T40 or a 1/2-inch socket. I use a 1/2-inch socket, 3/8 drive. So the tools we need for this job is you need a 1/2-inch socket or a T40, an extension, Phillips screwdriver, a ratchet. You are going to need, or you don't need, but I like to use my little impact gun. It's only 8 volt. And the reason why we're doing this is we're replacing the spark plugs. It's part of a 10K service that I do, and I have a little fuel line, and I'll explain why I have that later in the video. So you don't want to miss out on this, so stay tuned. Let me get the seat off, and then I'll show you all the bolts that have to come out. Okay, I got the seat off, as you can see. And here are 2 bolts in the back. You don't have to worry about the dash, but here's 1 bolt, there's the other bolt, and then up front are the 2 other bolts to remove the tank. But before you unbolt the tank, now on these newer models, they have a nice little Schrader valve right here to depressurize the fuel system. So all you do is take the cap off and then push it in. And why is that important? Well, because we're disconnecting the fuel line. So you just press the Schrader valve in, you lift up on this collar, and you pull down on the fuel line and it pops right out. Let me get that going. And well, let me see if I can get you set up on the tripod so you can actually watch it. All right, that's better, so you can see what I'm doing. I'm going to lift up on this collar. Oh, it doesn't seem like it's depressurized all the way. You'll know because that collar won't really lift so easily. So just get in here with your fingernail. On the older bikes, underneath the seat, there'll be a wire that comes down that plugs into a harness. And under the seat, you just unplug that, turn the bike on, try and crank it over with it disconnected, and that'll depressurize the fuel system. Okay, there, you hear it pop up. New bikes are fun. There we go. There's the fuel line disconnected. Now we have a wire here that goes up underneath the tank. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to remove the back bolts, loosen the front ones, tilt the seat up to get to this wire. That's for your fuel pump. And I'm going to disconnect that as well. And we'll have the tank off in a jiffy. Okay, so like I said, 1/2-inch, loosen up these. I'm going to loosen these 2. And then I am going to get my gun, and I'm going to zip them out. And I want to mention, when you take your fuel tank off, make sure you have a nice, safe place for this thing for you to put it. Because once it's off, you don't want to scratch it or damage it in any way. So what I'm doing now is I'm loosening up the front just so I could get this tank to lift up out of the way. And all this just to replace spark plugs. Go figure. Go figure. Okay, that one's loose. Now getting to the 2 spark plugs on the left side of the bike, it's really easy. You don't have to do anything, but these bikes have 2 spark plugs per head, so you have to take the tank off. So now I got those loosened up. I'm going to pick up, oh, of course, he's got a full tank of gas. Thank you. And once I get the tank off, I will show you. Oh, it'll be easier if I put a block of wood underneath of it. Just trying to, you know, relieve my hands. So a nice 2x4, get right up underneath there. And let me show you where this plug is. This way you guys will see everything. I don't want to hide anything from you. So right here, you follow your wire right there to the plug. And just like all other plugs on Harley, it's a pinch and pull. So you want to pinch it, you're going to hear that clip right here and pull it out. And it's a 4-wire plug. Now that that's out, I've noticed up front we got a couple of hoses. So let me take that 2x4 out, lower the tank back down, and see what we got to do to get those off. Okay, upon further investigation, this is the first time I'm taking this Gen 2 tank off, so I'm learning as I'm showing. So you have a 5/32 screw up front here and a T27 screw here, and we should just be able to pick this up. Now we have 2 hoses, one of which is right here, and the other one is here. And it looks like one of them is crimped while the other one is not. So we're going to have to get a crimp clamp for that. Like I said, I'm learning this as much as you are. But the one that's a slip fit, we're just going to pull it off just like that. Get it out of the way. The other one looks like it's an overflow. So I'm going to move this one to the side out of the way. And then once I get these hoses off, then I'll be able to take the other 2 bolts off and the tank. So let me work on this, and then we'll get it done. All right, got those hoses off. I'm going to have to go to the auto parts store to get a really small clamp for that one hose. That's news to me, and new to me. Like I said, first time taking one of these tanks off. So I want to make sure we do it right and there's no issues. All right, all 4 bolts have now been removed, and all we got left is to lift our tank up off and then set it down on the table on top of a moving cloth or a towel, whatever you have in hand. So make sure you get a good positive grip, lift the tank off, and then set it down. Now we don't have to worry about the tank getting damaged or anything. So here we are. I'll bring her on the other side. We'll do those 2 spark plugs together, but take a look at this. I'm looking at the differences here. These are the engine knock sensors. On the earlier M8s, they're down inside of here, but it looks like there is an oil cooler tube or a water cooling tube, so they moved them up here to the mount for your coil, which used to be your horn. Your fuel rail is here, a little bit different. I like that. I like the fact that they got rid of the cooling lines that went over the head. It'll make it easier when you have to do service. You're not struggling with that one pipe. We have a crankcase ventilation here, looks like. And yeah, looks different but similar. So now I just got to pull out these spark plug wires, pull out the plugs, gap the plugs, and then install them, do the other side, and we'll be done with this project today. It's not that hard. It really isn't. So let's get this set up. Okay, so what I just did is I removed the spark plug wires from the inboard spark plugs. And it's a good practice, and I strongly recommend it, is to blow some compressed air down inside of here before you remove the spark plugs. I'm going to repeat that, before you remove the spark plugs. Why? Because some dirt, some sand, some debris will get trapped in there, and better to blow it out than have it get caught or get into your motor and cause all sorts of damage. So remember that fuel line I showed you? Once I break them free, break the spark plugs free, I take this fuel line, I'll go on top of the spark plug, and then I just untwist it with that. And I'll install them with the same line. Another thing I noticed from the second gen M8, let's take a look at how that's burning. That's actually really nice and clean. Is they got rid of the plastic intake manifold. Good job, Harley, getting rid of the garbage. Let's see. I get this one loose enough yet. Darn it. That's all right. We'll just go right back at it with the good old socket and ratchet. That should be good now. Let's find out. I hope so I get on the spark plug. There we go. There we go. We got it now. And that's the front one. Again, this is the right side of the motor underneath the tank. So let me get out our spark plugs and we'll install them, and then we'll gap them and all that fun stuff. They should come pre-gapped, but if you guys know me, I have trust issues with something that's supposed to be pre-done from the factory or the manufacturer. And they should be gapped to 40 thousandths. And these two are. So what I do is I'll take the new spark plug and I'll put it on the hose. Now I want to put just a touch of anti-seize on there. You don't have to, it is not required, but it's something I like to do because I like to keep motors happy. Just a touch, not much more, but just a touch. And of course I got it all over my hands, which means I'll look like Mr. Anti-Seize here in a little bit. Just a touch, that little drop, that's all you need. Because as you thread it in, just like that, and there is a torque value to this, but I have always gone to a good and tight torque spec, and I've never had an issue. I know people are going to be screaming at me, you need to torque it, there's a torque spec for a reason, and you're right. But I've been doing this more years than half my life. So I'm going to thread this one in, and then we'll tighten them up. Now we come to the fun time of tightening these up. And if you notice, I don't put a lot of torque on it. You really don't need a whole lot of torque. That's done, so we could put our spark plug wires back on our spark plugs. Excuse my head here for a minute, and we're trying to see where the spark plug is so I can line it up properly. There it is. And when you put these on, you're going to wait to hear a click. Or you should. There you go. I didn't hear it, but I felt it. Now I'll do the front. Again, lining it up. There you go. And you're just going to press it right in. I heard a click on that one. All right, let me do the other side, and then we'll go back to putting the tank back on. Okay, so she gave up a secret here. Instead of removing that clamp, this hose comes all the way down the backbone and connects right here where there is no clamp. So all I had to do was disconnect it here, and that's the overflow. Unclip it from the whole bike as I'm lifting the tank from these two clips, and that all would have came off with the tank. No big deal. So now let's put this tank on. Like I said, I'm learning these secrets as much as you are. All right, so now I'm going to grab our tank. Oh, and when you bring your bike to a mechanic, make sure you don't have a full tank of gas or a half tank of gas. As close to empty as possible. It'll make us so much happier. So being mindful where these hoses go, making sure we do not, I repeat, do not crush them. This one here just slips right in, boom, done, just like that. This one's going to go here, and I got to get that little clamp, put that on. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to start the two front bolts. Just so I can tilt this tank. And like I said, a full tank of gas makes it harder on your technician or yourself if you're going to do this yourself. All right, got this one started. It's over there now. All right, now we get the other bolt started, and then we'll lift the tank and plug in our fuel pump. Take our fuel pump wire, we're going to fish it up underneath and plug it right back in where it came out of. Sometimes easier said than done. There we go. And while this is up, lift up on that collar if you can, and try to, I'll wait till all the bolts, okay, let's try it again. Let's see. There we go. Now that's connected. The fuel line is connected. The fuel pump is connected. All I got left to do is lower the tank down, tighten those 4 bolts, put a clamp on that little hose, and then put the dash on it and call this project done. It's not a big project, changing your spark plugs, but we are at the tail end of a 10K service on this bike. All right, Gabe, so I got the tank back on, tank dash is back on and seats back on. We're going to start it up in a little bit and check for leaks. So without any further ado, let's fire her up. Look at that, isn't that pretty? All back together. Now let's check for a fuel leak. We should be good. And just like that, no fuel leak, guys. So this project's all done. Thanks for hanging out. Hopefully you learned something about how to take a tank off of your second generation road glides with the second generation M8. It's a little bit different than the first gen Rushmores and now the second gen. All right, that's it for this video, guys. Hey, if you like this video, you want to see more content like this, please click that like and the subscribe. And don't forget to bang that bell notification. This way you get notified every time I upload a video. Until the next time, I want you to live the best life you can. Ride often, as always, ride hard.